one-fourth of one of my favorite country music bands of all time. Today on the Music Universe podcast.
Oh, Matt, welcome back.
Oh my goodness. Were you even a part of this interview? I think I dominated it.
Didn't feel like it.
You know,
I interjected when I could.
I say one of my favorite artists of one of my favorite country music bands. I think one of my favorite bands of all times, because there's nobody out there that harmonizes like the Oak Ridge Boys do anymore. And Joe Bonsall is the tenor for the Oak Ridge Boys, but he's also the MC for the show when they're out performing.
Yeah.
He's the most talkative. He's the most hyper energetic, and you got that sense. You get that sense immediately talking to him, as I know you know from our interview with him.
Oh yeah, he was like, "Let's go." Like we were just kind of letting him know how we do it, and he's like, "All right, let's go."
Yeah,
and super cool guy. He was super sweet and just talked our ears off as well. We got a good 30 minutes out of him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he was like, "I'm sorry, did I go too long?" I'm like, "No. If we didn't have one." If we didn't have three others that we were doing, we would have let you talk more. I said,
"Oh yeah,
we just try to be respectful of your time." And what's so cool is he's so down to earth. He followed us back on Twitter, all that good stuff. And I was talking with him last night about the book, the little crime short story you'll hear him mention on the podcast here in the interview. And he gave me the link and everything. So he's just such a cool guy, and I hope we stay in touch. Some of these people are just so down to earth. It's like you've known them for years.
Oh yeah, and you never know when you chat with someone or you get that message that, hey, so and so, you're gonna chat with him. You just never know, and sometimes you feel like you're walking on eggshells. But with these guys, it was just like super chill. And Joe was one of them. He was just like, hey, let's go with it. And he chatted. He elaborated on some stuff. We asked him questions, and he was great. I mean, I think half the time I was talking about the quarantine.
Yeah, he had some great insights on the quarantine and faith and patriotism. I think during this time, he just wants to talk about the music and talk about reaching fans. And he was just a lot of fun. Joe Bonsall of the Oak Ridge Boys, one of my favorite country groups of all time. Welcome to the Music Universe podcast. How are you, sir?
Well, I'm doing really good, just like everybody else. We're in very strange times right now. I'm hunkered down, and it's good to talk to you guys. I appreciate you having me on.
Well, it's good to talk to you. Thank you for joining us. One of the lines in your song, Every Day, I want to shake somebody's hand. We're not doing that right now. I know you are known as the Energizer Bunny of the group. How does it feel to have to stay home? And you guys tour all year just to have that time at home. Is it driving you crazy yet?
Well, no, not yet. I'm very fortunate. I have a wonderful wife. I hate not being able to see my grandkids or my daughters, but I have a wonderful wife, and we have 6 great cats. Well, 5 great cats, one that's a pain in the can, but and I think they may be a little tired of me. I don't know, but so far so good. I mean, the thing that strikes you about something like this is it's not about you. It's not about the fact that, oh my gosh, Joe Bonsall has to sit home and how am I going to do that? When you realize that everybody's doing it, and that even if you just narrow it down to the music industry, there is nobody out there singing right now. None. Nobody. Right. Zilch. So everybody that I know that sings songs for a living or plays in a band or is a member of a crew or lighting, sound, drivers, all those guys are at home with their families right now, as is the rest of the nation. So it just becomes not about you anymore, but you got to see that bigger picture. And I think that's what everybody's trying their best to do, and I know that's what I'm doing my best to do in a very prayerful and optimistic, attitude.
Are you getting inspired to write anything while you're at home?
To tell you the truth, man, I did start working on a few different things. I've been working on a short story. There's a compilation of crime stories that came out last year that I wrote called After Midnight, and I wrote a story in there about a police story, believe it or not. I don't really do much fiction, but God, it was so much fun. And they've asked me to take part in a project this year, which, of course, obviously the deadline's been pushed way back. I have plenty of time on it. And I've had some other little ideas. I've written a few pieces here and there. I haven't been happy with anything, but with all this time down, especially over the next month, I think I may find time to write something. I don't know if I've got another book in me. A little funny thing, my latest book is On the Road with the Oak Ridge Boys, which is,
Yes.
a book about the Oaks. Well, we're doing a series of email blasts right now to kind of inspire people and let them know we're all okay. And it's called Off the Road with the Oak Ridge Boys.
Well, I love that book. I love On the Road with the Oak Ridge Boys. In fact, it's probably my favorite book about touring life that I've ever read. You're a wonderful author, and I have a question. I know that you talk in the book about how much Dwayne. I think you say that Dwayne is such a techie, as are you. Any chance that the Oaks will get together for a virtual Facebook concert and follow in the footsteps of everybody else that's been doing that?
I don't know. It's real easy for a guy with a guitar to sit behind a microphone and do it, or sitting at a piano. But the four of us, we could do a couple a cappella things if we got the technology right, because we're going to have to do a four-face FaceTime kind of thing or something, I guess. But it's been asked of us over and over, and I know a lot of people have done it. Some with real success, and some maybe they shouldn't have.
No comment.
No, but, I watched that thing the other night, that they did on Fox and everything with Elton John hosted, and I thought most of that was pretty good. I thought there was a few of them that maybe was pushing it just a little bit. When they see it back, they're not going to be happy, but everybody's trying their best. We're all trying to be a blessing here. We're all trying to encourage our fellow neighbors, and music does that better than anything, as you know. So I guess if it works out that we can do it, I'd be all for it.
Now, is this one of the craziest moments in your career that you've had to experience where you guys just can't literally do much?
Oh, definitely, man. The fact that the buses are parked over there and everybody's in their house and the office staff is working from home and the band and crew don't have any work, and we're losing a lot of income for 2.5 months of shows. We were booked really heavy. And we did our last show March 15th in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and we barely got that in. It was a sold-out show at the Alabama Theater. I don't think we all knew that troubled waters were coming, but I don't think we had any idea that tonight, right now, this moment, with this crowd of people, was going to be the last time that we'd be together singing for a while. And I still don't really know how long it's going to be. I mean, I'm seeing things canceled into June. They just canceled CMA Fest downtown Nashville. Holy cow. And that was kind of in June. I was kind of hopeful that maybe something like CMA Fest would have been such a great thing to bring it back. But we're going to have to stay with this, what they call mitigation, I think, for a longer time than we all think. I don't know how a lot of businesses are going to survive. Right now, to be honest, I don't know how we're going to survive. I mean, we're trying to make plans and look at every financial angle we can, and to keep this thing above water. But it's really hard when you're a group like us who relies on show income to run everything. It's a little hard to pay all your people and pay all your bills with no income coming in. So we're addressing it, and I know the Oak Ridge Boys will come up with a solution for it. But it's just a microcosm, I think, of what everybody in our industry is doing right now at every level of the business, whether you're a new kid with a new record or you're an old veteran act like ourselves. Or, I mean, look, the Grand Ole Opry's dark. I mean, my goodness gracious, no sports, no church, no gatherings of any kind. I mean, it's just an amazing time. And no, I think it comes back to the thing of it's not about us and it's not about me. It's the fact that everybody's dealing with it. And I actually think on some level that helps you deal with it, knowing that every single person out there is having to deal with it as well. And it's like the president says, it's a wartime footing right now. We're fighting a weird enemy. And all that we can hope and pray for, and I think that this is where I am optimistic, we have the greatest scientific community in history with the best technology and the best tools. Somebody somewhere, we're already coming up with some things here that are looking promising. Or Abbott Labs just came out with this new test. When that gets out there, more people are going to be able to get tested quicker. I mean, if we can accelerate this thing like I know they're doing, working feverishly, tirelessly around the clock, just like our medical people, but our scientific community, man, they've got to come to the forefront. They've got to figure out a way to stop this thing, and I think we will. And then when it's all done, we'll all be back to doing what we do, maybe with a few lessons learned, maybe being a little careful from here on in. But everybody will be back to singing, man. We'll be back to singing songs, and that's what I'm looking forward to.
If I may make
Oh,
a
yeah,
prediction, I think the Oak Ridge Boys will be doing 2 and maybe 3 night engagements in the same locations when it does come back, because everybody will be so pent up to see you, as they will for every artist. And you guys have been touring for decades. The thing that I think is, it can seem kind of egregious to make this comparison, but people are making the comparison to the way the country shut down after 9/11, and I'm very curious what you're seeing now versus how that sort of comparably mini shutdown in 2001, if there's any similarities and any differences in how you were impacted.
I think there's a lot of similarities, of course.
Yeah.
Because, one tragedy with a lot of lives lost is another. But, that one came out as a total shock and surprise. Like, all of a sudden, out of the clear blue sky, we had terrorist planes crashing into the World Trade Center, which was unthinkable. Unthinkable. And then when those buildings came down, it was unthinkable that kind of thing could happen. There's where the comparison, I think, rates high, because everybody being home and everything in this whole country totally shut down is unthinkable. You can't go to the restaurant and eat, and like I said, there's no sports, there's no nothing. That is unthinkable, like 9/11 was unthinkable. One of the other things that was a positive after 9/11, even if it just lasted for a short time, is how people in this country all pulled together as Americans. It didn't matter if you were a Baptist, a Methodist, a Republican, a Democrat, conservative, a liberal. It seemed like everyone was on that same page, flying flags outside their cars, and you'd see pickup trucks go by with a big flag waving and fire trucks with a flag on the back. I mean, these were times that, although sad, it was heartwarming to see everybody pulling together, everybody being nice to each other. And I think we're seeing that now. I think people are pulling together. Now, believe me, the liberal and conservative divide in this country is still there. And I saw it just recently here when the pillow guy got up in front in the Rose Garden, Mike Lindell, and said we should be, getting into the Word and praying more. And everybody castigated him the next day. The liberal side did. So that ain't going away yet. But, I mean, how stupid to do something like that at a time like this. I mean, what's wrong? Oh, my God, stop the presses. The guy said we should be praying more. Okay, that's wrong, according to some. So I don't know that we have quite the impact of that togetherness like we had back then. We're still a little polarized, but I see it getting better. And what I do see around here, I know like a week and a half ago, before we really had to stay home a lot, we could go out for essentials. We still can here in Tennessee, but I went to Publix, and I bought a whole bunch of supplies, for the house and everything, and everybody was so kind to one another. They were keeping their distance, but it was like, oh, pardon me, excuse me, oh, how you doing? Oh, I'm fine. It was just like, I don't know, it felt like that kind of togetherness, at least an image of it like we had after 9/11.
And I'm in California, and you can't find most essential stuff. I don't know. It's probably been a month since I've been able to find toilet paper, paper towels, napkins. People lining up at Costco at 2 a.m. just to get these things, and then they're gone once they open at 10 or earlier or later, whenever they open now. It's crazy. So I do wish we had that togetherness. And some people I've heard too, and I know you're big in your faith, that this is a message from God. What do you say about that?
Well, I am a man of faith, I must tell you that, and I believe with all my heart that for everything there's a reason. But I'm not good enough to know for sure that this is a message from God. It could be. It very well might be. I wouldn't discount it. We have slowly but surely pushed God out of our lives in almost every aspect, just like my example of the people jumping all over the pillow guy because he said we should read our Bibles and get into the Word some while we're home. I don't know what's wrong with that. But obviously, I think we need more faith right now. I know I pray every day. I prayed today, and I prayed for my family. I prayed for this country. I pray that God would get us through this thing and that we'd find a cure for this awful disease and this awful virus, and we'd be able to all move on. But I don't know that it's a sign from God or not. It could be. It sure feels like one of them plagues, doesn't it?
It does.
I mean,
You
it's a
know,
worldwide deal too, man. I mean, people are dying all over the world. It's not even just America. It's not even just about us. And
right.
so it's about the world. It's about what's going on in other countries and people dying everywhere. And you look at Italy and you look at Spain and some of these hot spots around the world, and boy, it's just a devastating thought. Again, I come back to the word unthinkable. It's like this can't be happening. It's like a Stephen King book. It's like a horror, one of them B movies. Oh my God, a big plague wipes out everybody in the earth, and only so many survive, and they blah 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 blah. It's like a bad movie.
It is, and just like in those bad movies, there are always people who are going to take advantage of the situation in a negative way. And I know you and the Oaks are spokespeople for AARP, and you put a message out on Twitter for senior citizens to be aware of scams of medicines that are being advertised as cures for COVID-19. How important is it right now to protect the most vulnerable, not medically, but who could fall susceptible to scams? And what moved you to do this message for AARP?
Well, way back there a while ago when the AARP Fraud Watch Network asked us to do a PSA in association or in accordance with the Department of Justice, we were all for it, man. Yeah, that's a great idea. And when we were finished with it, and we saw the figures, and of course, a lot of this stuff we all know. We keep our ear to the ground. We know that the scam thing is a big deal. We're getting scam calls on our home phones all the time, and click this blue line because I got a deal for you, blah, blah, blah. But when it was brought to our attention how much the elderly, not that we didn't know it, but it was right there in front of us in black and white, are taken advantage of, our question to them was, what more can we do? This is really a great project. We'd like to do more. So then they made a spokesman for the whole cause. Well, since then, that has included, as you mentioned, me doing some PSAs and some things for Twitter and Facebook and Instagram or wherever they put it, and to just kind of make people aware of the fact that there may be those out there trying to take advantage of them. And if you're an older person, please consider what you're doing and research what you're doing before you do it. And don't pull any triggers until you know for sure who these people are and what they want. So all of a sudden it became more important, I think, that we were doing this. And now we've become kind of a voice for that. And I think it's important that somebody's doing something there and bringing awareness to it. Why not us?
Does it bring you comfort? I mean, your audience, some have been with you. I'm a millennial and I'm a huge fan, but I know I got introduced to your music through my grandparents. And so for as many decades as you've been around, you've had fans. Does it bring you some comfort to know that maybe your music is helping these people your fans get through these times, and that your messages are reassuring to them?
Oh, definitely. And let me tell you something. What you just said, your grandparents turned you on to the Oak Ridge Boys. We hear that over and over all the time from younger people, man. And I think that's one of the reasons we're still around. I wrote about that in the book we talked about, but we've been passed down through generations, I think more so than almost any other act. I know some have, but we certainly have been passed down from grandma to the kids, to their kids, to the young cowboys out there at the festival with a girlfriend and a beer and muscles, singing every word to every song we're doing. And you say, man, how do you know those songs? And I had a guy one time tell me from the crowd, Grandpa's 8 tracks, man. So, so we've been passed down like an old shirt, man. That's why the old Oak Ridge Boys are still out here singing, and that's why our audience is so varied. I mean, our audience is skewed older. Of course, we've skewed older, so that's to be expected. But, yes, and I see it. I'm the Twitter guy, I'm not on Facebook. I'm not on Instagram. Other people are handling that, and I don't even really like Facebook, to be honest. But I don't mind the Twitter thing. It's kind of quick, and it's fast, and you can do a lot of good in a short period of time, and it's kind of fun to me. So I do the Oak Ridge Boys tweets, and I do my own, and that's about the extent of my social networking. Now, I am on Pinterest, and I either do pictures of banjos or big cats and owls. But that's another side of me that hardly nobody even realizes I'm over there. And I'm on LinkedIn, but I never do much there.
Wait a minute. Did you say big cats? Did you say big cats?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, did you watch Tiger King?
I watched the first episode, and to be honest with you, I didn't want to watch anymore.
Yeah, it was just crazy.
I thought that he was just batshit crazy, and so was she. And so was she. And the big line that happened when they said, I got 227 tigers to feed, I thought, well, that's ridiculous. I wish they'd turn and eat him. and then I was done.
Love it.
That would have been a show worth watching, right?
Yeah,
Now,
I was done with it after that. I said, all these people are nuts, man, and I felt bad for the big cats because I love the big cats, but I didn't really care for it, to be real honest. I know a lot of people are turned on to it, but I really wasn't. But to get back to your original question, yes, we see it on social networking. I know that a lot of people are finding inspiration in our music, probably especially our gospel songs from back in the day. Mm-hmm. And we've recorded some good gospel over the years, and I see people put lyrics to our songs on Twitter, and it's very heartwarming to know that maybe something that we have done may help get somebody through this.
Absolutely. And you've been a member of the Oaks for 46 years. And like you said, you wrote a book. You're just, what's it like to be a member of a group for that long and just continue touring and putting out new music as much as you can?
I still think it's amazing to be an Oak Ridge boy. I love this group. I love what we do. To stand up there since 1973 and sing my part and be a part of that sound that comes out of the four of us with our kicking band, it's a real kick. If people enjoy listening to it, I guarantee you they ain't having any more fun than those of us up there singing. We're a unique American institution, and we're a part of music history. We've lived out dreams that we never had any idea that we would live out. We all had dreams, but we've far exceeded our dreams. I'm in my house right now, and I can go into this next room, and on my wall there I've got that big copy of that placard that's at the Country Music Hall of Fame on the wall in the rotunda that shows the Oak Ridge Boys inducted in 2015. I just don't know how that can be beat. It's an amazing thing to be a part of.
That's a great thing, and I bet that's a beautiful room you've got with all those on there.
Now, I want to show you how much of a fan I am. First of all, as a music journalist, I go to the show every year. For the last 3 years, I've gone to a show every year. So I've been waiting to go for this year, but of course with the postponements and everything. Number two, the other question, I mean this respectfully. If it sounds like I'm picking a bone, I'm not. One of my favorite Oaks songs was left off of Boys Night Out, and I'm just wondering if there's a live recording in the vault, but Leavin' Louisiana is like the Oaks song for me, and I'm just wondering if maybe because there were so many hits that weren't on that original live album, if maybe there might be plans for a live album in the future.
Well, I don't know about that. Are you telling me that Leavin' Louisiana is not on Boys Night Out?
Nope. Not that I see. I go back because I'm like, that's not right. It's not on there.
That's not right. We sing Leavin' Louisiana every single night. It's one of our top songs. I can't believe that was left off the album.
It's not on the album. No. That's amazing. I'm sorry if I've upset you there. That's just I'm just telling you.
I had no idea. I'm going to have to look back at that and see how in the world that happened.
I'm checking Amazon right now, and it is not on the vinyl for sure.
I'll be danged.
No.
That's a shocker. I just assumed it was on there, and I've listened to it a bunch of times. I guess I didn't really notice ever that it wasn't. Boy, what a glaring mistake that was.
But it goes to a bigger question, which is, and you address this a little in the book, which is every year you try to make the set list a little different, keeping those hits and the ones that people want to hear. You have such a large catalog, 4 decades of music. How do you guys sit down and decide what is going on the road with you?
Well, to be honest with you, that's one of the things I do. I make up a different set list every day. Every single day there's a new set list. And right now I think we've got 70 songs that we can do, counting gospel, patriotic, and hits. And deep cuts. I love to pull deep cuts out. Mm-hmm. I love to every once in a while pull out Golden singing There Must Be Something About Me That She Loves from Have Arrived in 79, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I just try to put together a show that will be fast-paced and uplifting and include a lot of music, because we do a lot of singing. We do 23 to 25 songs a night when we sing. And I like to make it different. I really do. And now there's some songs that are on the set almost every night. Y'all Come Back Saloon 90% of the time. Of course, Elvira, Bobby Sue, especially Elvira, every single night. Leavin' Louisiana is probably on that set about 80% of the time. I can't, it really is. But, there's just so many songs, and I think that's so cool that we have such a deep well that we can dig into. Did you see what I did there?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the thing about that is you work with contemporary songwriters. I know that One of Brandy Clark's song is on 17th Avenue Revival. I have to commend you and say I really love that you look to the new artists to work with you, because that blend of new plus your iconic status, it's just magic. Everything you've put out is just awesome. Sorry if I'm fanboying a little bit, but I mean, you guys have really managed to stay relevant, and I love it.
Thank you. Well, you're always reinventing yourself, man. We're always trying to. We're the great thing about the Oak Ridge Boys, to go on that a little bit again, is I travel with a bunch of guys and sing with a bunch of guys that are all forward-thinking individuals. There's no quit in anybody. We're old guys, man, and we're still singing good, and which is a key. And we're still out there performing a lot of shows a year, and everybody's always into this thing of how can we do it better. We've released 8 Christmas albums, okay, and every one of them has a different little twist than the one before it. But this past year, when we went in the studio with Dave Cobb, this is to your question about new artists or new songwriters, young songwriters. We had a stable of young songwriters down there with Dave Cobb, and we sat around in a circle and talked about what we'd like to do on the Down Home Christmas album. And we would tell them ideas for something like, we really need a really good Santa song. We got a Santa segment in our Christmas show. We need some new Santa songs. These guys go upstairs, a couple of them in each room, and they write songs, bring them down to us. And some of them we just love so much, and we'd record them right there on the spot. It was like old Nashville. And we're about to do that again with Dave Cobb and his young songwriters. The whole attitude of the next album is about like if we were, the Oak Ridge Boys were singing on a front porch. Not exactly bluegrass, not exactly You Are My Sunshine, but although it could be, I guess. But it's like we already have gotten a few songs in from some of these same writers that wrote for us on 17th Avenue Revival and Down Home Christmas, and they're masterpieces. And these are young guys in their 20s, man, some of them, who are just writing great songs. One of those guys, I can't think of his name right now, I'm sorry, but he's written 5 number ones for Luke Combs. So, I mean, we're getting these young guys here writing songs for us, man, and that's really a new energy that we just love.
And kind of going back to the set list mix-up, you said you guys have 70 songs, so the band obviously has to know all of this stuff. Do you guys pre-rehearse, like before, like block out a month of time before you guys go on tour and just rehearse everything, and then just everyone's kind of
man, our band is so good, and we know our stuff so well. We may have a rehearsal one day on the road, say, hey, we're in Baton Rouge tonight, man, we need to do Call in Baton Rouge. Garth has been talking about it a lot lately, and how when he was a kid he'd listen to the Oak Ridge Boys sing Call in Baton Rouge. So let's run it. And we go down there to sound check, band listens to it, get a kind of feel to it. We go on stage with the band, sing through it twice, and that night we're doing Call in Baton Rouge. So that's kind of how it goes with us. We don't have to really sit and rehearse a lot unless we got a bunch of really brand new music to do.
Sure, and that's what I love about Nashville. I'm from Missouri originally, but lived in Nashville a couple years, playing music myself, and it was amazing at how many people you met, and a lot of those people just could do it off the cuff like that. It was just amazing.
There's just so much talent in this town. It's unbelievable, man. Did you see that thing online of the backup singers in town in Nashville that recorded "It Is Well with My Soul"?
No, I'll have to check that out.
Look it up on YouTube. It Is Well with My Soul, Nashville. And it's like about 25 or so, maybe 30 young singers, not a one that I even knew, to be honest, singing It Is Well with My Soul, where each one of them's in a little square like they did it on Zoom or something.
Yeah.
And it's just mind-boggling. And just, again, an example of the incredible talent we have in this town from music standpoint, from songwriters. That's why it's so sad right now to see so many people hurting, that aren't working, But again, it's not about just the music. It's everywhere. There's nobody working in any restaurants in town either, or any of the bars, or any of the hot spots in Nashville like the Grand Ole Opry or the Country Music Hall of Fame. To see everything closed, boy, that's really surreal,
It really is.
I couldn't believe whenever Live Nation started canceling shows, and then all of a sudden we got the press release saying they've canceled everything through like the end of May. Like, this is unheard of. And then rescheduling's got to be a big logistical.
The first thing I saw was when they canceled South by Southwest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
That happened, and not too long after that, we were booked on the Rodeo Austin. And Rodeo Austin was claiming on Twitter that no matter what happens, they're a go. And I guess the city of Austin said, no, you're not. So, but then the big Houston livestock show in Coachella canceled. Well, once that happened, then I said, uh-oh, this is going to snowball, man. There's not going to be any shows anywhere for a long time. And that's exactly what happened. Now, to the Oak Ridge Boys, we mentioned business earlier and planning business and finances. The good news for us is almost every show that went away has been postponed. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, we're going to play these dates. And that's a comforting feeling right now. At least, I sure hope we're going to play these dates. I mean, we don't know how long this thing's going to go, but then it could start to get really weird. But I'm optimistic that we're going to end it sooner than later, and we're all going to be back on the bus and out there singing right like everybody else is. And like I say, with maybe some lessons learned. That's what I'm banking on.
We're banking on it too. Joe Bonsall, this was fabulous. I've wanted to talk to you for a long time. We both have. This was a thrill. Thank you so much.
Well, that's a real honor for you to say that to me, man. Guys, thank you. God bless you, man. Really, God bless you, man. Keep on playing the music, and hey, be prayerful and optimistic. That's what we got to do right now.
Oh, my goodness. Joe Bonsall. That makes two of the four Oak Ridge Boys, and like baseball cards, I think we need to collect them all, because I've interviewed Richard Sturban. I interviewed him to promote a date. Now we've had Joe. I don't know if Dwayne does any interviews. The PR people were telling us that he may not. That's off and on. And then, of course, William Lee Golden, the Beard, the man himself, man of mystery. I don't think anybody has ever seen his eyes. If you ever...
all the pictures I'm looking at, he looks like Santa Claus with glasses.
Oh, my gosh. But you want to know where 90s country comes from, urban cowboy stuff comes from? It's from the stuff these guys were doing in the 70s and 80s. It was just the natural extension of that. Put a little bit more of a harder rock guitar in the middle of it. And I've said in a couple of the reviews of their shows that I've done, their live stuff is quote-unquote harder, meaning harder strings, more rockin' arrangements than on their albums. And they've really, like I said in the interview, they've managed to stay relevant for 5 decades now, going on 50 years, 40 some odd years.
Yeah. And one of my favorite parts of the interview was when you actually puzzled him.
Yes.
I wasn't sure where that was going to go. And he's like, wait a minute, that's not on there. Well, I'll have to do some investigative research. So that's how super cool Joe is.
And knowing him, he will.
Yeah, and you guys should definitely, he's a Twitter guy, like he said. So follow him on Twitter. He'll follow you back. He'll chat with you, I'm sure. He was super cool. And actually, in the middle of the interview, I actually followed him. When we hung up, he had tweeted us back and followed us. So that was cool. So yeah, check him out, the Oak Ridge Boys online, and Joe Bonsall's personal page as well. Super cool guy, and would love to have him back at some point.
Absolutely, and I'm sure he will, because like I said, the Oaks are kind of my beat. I make sure to cover them at least once or twice a year when they come to the area. So, Joe, thank you for your time, but I'm sure this won't be the last you'll be hearing from us, and vice versa.
Yeah, we'll try not to annoy you, though.
All right, I'm Matt.
And I'm Buddy for the Music Universe podcast. Thanks for listening.